Okay, so my name is Richards, and I am a Microsoft certified trainer, A to Z, full stop. There's nothing else again. Okay, so today we'll be having an introduction to Azure Virtual Machine. So Azure Virtual Machine is actually one of the most complex topic when it comes to virtual machine is actually one of the most complex topic when it comes to cloud engineering, right? The reason is because it is the foundation of the cloud, right? And almost, let me just say, I don't have any factual value for this, but from the look of things, it's like 90% or over 95% of other resources or cloud services depends on virtual machines and networking as well. So we're going to have a very high level of virtual machine because I don't actually know the how skilled you guys have with virtual machines, so I'm going to leave it on a very high level. So these are the agendas we have for today. We'll talk about introduction to virtual machine, talk about some of the definitions and concepts, and then we will move on to talking about doing a little bit of demo, like creating a virtual machine, looking at network configurations, and connecting to the virtual machines and all those beautiful stuff. Right. So on a very high level, what's a virtual machine? So virtual machines are software emulations of the physical machine. What does that mean? So one of the ways that I normally explain virtual machine to people is by using the term virtual machine is a computer inside another computer, right? It's like, for instance, how will I put it now? It's like having creating a logical system inside a physical system. Now you have a laptop at home, right? And that laptop is it runs on Windows. Let me say it runs on Windows. It's a Dell laptop that runs on Windows. Let's say Windows Server 2022 or Windows Server 2019. And then you have an application that you actually built, or maybe your company wants you to run that application or test that application. That application dependency is on Linux or maybe Mac OS. So the normal thing to do is to say, oh, I don't have a Linux machine. What do I have to do? Maybe I have to go borrow one. Maybe I have to go buy one or hire one from a friend. The physical machine itself, and then you transfer the binaries, the software, the codes, and everything into the Linux machine, and then you do your testing. But instead of going to borrow or buy, right, you can spin up a virtual machine with any OS that you want, right? So that is basically what it means to have a virtual machine. So you're using the physical system, right, to create a logical system. And that logical system could actually be, could have a different operating system. It can be Ubuntu with Linux, it can be Mac OS, it can be Red Hat, it can be Fedora, but the base physical underlying operating system is Windows. Okay, so a virtual machine contains the same thing like your physical system. It has virtual processors, it has memory, it has storage, networking, right? So a virtual machine is actually the fundamental fundamentals of infrastructure as a service, right? Because once you're using the virtual machine, it gives you more control over every other service offering, like the PaaS, which is platform as a service, and also SaaS, which is software as a service. Now, I just explained some kind of things now, and I just explained what virtual machine is. So I want to bring it into Azure and why virtual machine is actually important in Azure. But before why I'm doing that, I want to give us an Azure experience so we can actually see the way these whole things work. When we talk about cloud computing, virtual machines, and virtualization, I want to give us a very good experience of how it works. So I have this link here. Let me see if I can open this. Oh my God. Let me see if I can open this in another browser. I'm going to take this somewhere to see if I can open it. I just want to give us an experience of how this works. Okay. Just a second, please. So I'm trying to load the Azure experience. So the Azure experience is um, one of those beautiful things that actually gives you a fundamental understanding of how cloud computing works. Okay, so right now I'm trying to load the global infrastructure so you can get the experience of how Azure works. So when I'm explaining how this works, you get to really understand it really really well. Okay. Uh, let me go back and see. Are you guys with me?
Yep, yep.
Okay. Now this is Azure Cloud, right? This is the globe. It's showing you the different data centers, Microsoft data center that's spread across the world. All right. So, uh, further. Uh, trying to click on this, but it's not actually responding. I don't know why it's not responding. Okay, it's responding now. So this is the globe, right? So what is actually showing is showing the various distribution of Microsoft data centers all across the world, right? So I just want to drill down to the important parts. Let's go to the map, right? So all of this side you're seeing, these are regions, right? These are regions. These are regions where Microsoft have data centers. So with the explanation that I gave about virtual machines, right? So Azure has data centers distributed across all these regions you're seeing, right? All these regions you're seeing. So these are planets. So all these regions, Microsoft Azure have data centers. So in each of those data centers, we have powerful machines. We have I'll call them HPCs, like very high performance computing machines that you as an individual, you can go to Azure, right, and deploy any type of virtual machine that you want. You can take a virtual machine can have RAM of up to 52 gig, 300 and something gig. You know that personally you have like 32 gig at most, or you have 16 gig, 12 gig, 4 gig. But with all these machines that are distributed across different data centers, you can spin up any VM you want to be able to do anything you want, right? So so that's one of the beauty of all this the distribution of these machines that you're seeing, right? This the data centers that Microsoft has all over the world, right? So how is this important to businesses? Because when you're talking about cloud computing, is enabling both individuals and businesses. How is this important to businesses? So let's take a scenario, for instance. We have a company. Let's say we have a company, and let's call that company Dynamics. Dynamics is into, let's say, is into sales of, let me just see something hypothetical. Let's say sales of food. Yeah, let's say food or something. So they involve in both exportation and importation of food to different countries in the world. Dynamics actually started with 10 customers. So they will have one laptop which serve the application to that 10 customers, which is fine. But as things go ahead, people get to know about Dynamics. So Dynamics, instead of having 10 customers, now have 100 customers. They cannot continue using that one laptop anymore. So the CEO of Dynamics bought another laptop, like bought extra 3 laptops, right? Because they have more customers coming in. Now, instead of having just 100 customers, they have 200 customers because everything is making sense. They have 200 customers coming from different parts of the world, from Brazil, from US, and all those things. The beautiful thing is that business is expanding. But then another problem is that they don't have enough server and latency to serve those customers that are coming from different part of the world. So what they have to do in order for them to be able to satisfy those customers is to travel to different parts where they have customers and put physical system there to be able to serve their customer. And you know what that means. First of all, you have to get tickets, you have to get a land, you have to rent, you have to buy physical systems, and then you have to get a whole lot of things goes into owning a physical space for your system and all of those things. It costs a whole lot of money, right? So for you to satisfy those customers, you have to be able to get a physical presence with your physical servers serving those customers for different part of the world. It might be profitable. Other times it might not be profitable. Most times it might not be profitable because the company is just starting. How do we eliminate that kind of problem? Azure Virtual Machines. Once you come into Azure, irrespective of the location, you can spin up virtual machine across all these regions you're seeing here. Across all these regions you're seeing here. You can be from Nigeria, you can be from Africa, and then you're spinning up virtual servers in different part of the world to serve your customers, right? So that's absolutely beautiful. That's the problem that virtual machine can solve. Solve different problems, but that is one of the most that's one of the most important problem that virtual machine solves. Okay. All right. So going back to I hope we understood the Azure experience and the distribution of data centers across the world and how that relates to virtual machines. Hello?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I'll try as much as possible to have an interactive class because I like my class to be very interactive. Okay. So going back to my explanation about virtual machine. Now we have a representation here talking about traditional deployment and also a virtualized deployment. The traditional deployment is your basic physical system. So your basic physical system has the hardware. Things that you touch, the what you carry in hand is the hardware, right? And the motherboards and all those other things, right? Then you have the operating system. The operating system it could be Windows, it could be Mac OS, it could be Linux, right? And then on top of the operating system, you can deploy your application. Now the application depends on that operating system for it to run. An operating system that has dependency on something like Windows cannot run on Linux. Neither can it run on Mac OS, right? So every time that you need an application, you need to refactor your application to run on Windows or on another operating system. You might need another server to do that. So if you virtualize that environment, instead of this, you virtualize it to this, you would need a layer called an hypervisor. Now for Windows, we have an hypervisor. An hypervisor is what helps you to virtualize, to create a logical abstraction of the physical operating system so that you can be able to create virtual machines like you're seeing here. So if you see this one machine right now has been splitted into two virtual machines, right? The beautiful thing is that the dependencies of the application is no longer dependent on the physical or traditional operating system, which is this. It is not dependent on the virtual machine operating system. If you look at this right now, this is the physical system, and now this is the operating system of the physical system. Now we have an hypervisor which separates the physical system and creates a layer for you to create virtualized copy of your physical system. And on top of that, you can have up to 10, depending on how large your system is. You can have up to, depending, like for instance, now if you have a space of 10, you can divide into 2 gigs. That gives you 2 gig each. That gives you like 5 virtualized operating systems. So you can install whatever operating system that you like on it. Okay. So moving on to the next. So we talk about basic definitions and the concept of Azure VM. So virtualization, I've talked about virtualization. Virtualization is actually taking an abstraction from the physical system, and in order for you to be able to run different operating system on that physical system that you have. Okay, so infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service is one of those cloud offerings where you have the flexibility to configure, to have access to the operating system. So in cloud, we have different service offering. We have IaaS, we have PaaS. IaaS is infrastructure as a service. We have PaaS, which is platform as a service, and then we have SaaS, which is software as a service. Now, in among these three of them, the only one that you have more control over, the operating system, that's the computer itself. Now, the virtual machine is IaaS. So with IaaS, you can actually access the VM itself. You can decide to change your operating system either from Windows to Linux, depending on what you want your application to run on, whether your database to run on, depending on what you want actually. So, but in the other ones, they have limitations, right? So, talking about scalability and flexibility, remember the story that I talked about, dynamics, right? With Azure VMs, right, it becomes extremely flexible for you to spin up any VMs you want, any amount of VM as you want, because you're operating on a pay-as-you-go offering. You have a subscription, yes, so you can deploy as much VM as your subscription will allow you to, and it's scalable because Azure VM runs on automation. Depending on how you configure your applications, if you're having a lot of traffic, say for instance, their peak period in business, like some business are seasonal, so their peak period. For instance, if you're selling foodstuffs or you're selling clothes, you know that due closer to Christmas time, a lot of people will be accessing your sites to make order because why? They need more food or they need more clothes because it's Christmas period. So on a normal day, you have 10 people accessing your site, but because it's Christmas, you have up to 1,500 people accessing your site. So if you don't have the ability to scale, your system will crash. You have downtimes, and that's not good for business. But because you're operating on the cloud where spinning up virtual machine comes easily on automation, um, it's easier without you even doing anything. It scales on its own to handle the amount of traffic and requests coming from all over the world, right? So those are the beautiful concepts and benefits of Azure VMs. Okay, so use cases. So use cases, like I always talk about hosting application and websites and applications. We talk about running enterprise applications and databases, right? So large company, let's say something like ShopRite, right? ShopRite, they have very large customer base, and because they have large customer base, meaning they have to run an enterprise application, and they also need to run a scalable database as well. So you need something like Azure Cosmos DB or Azure SQL database, because these databases, they scale. You cannot keep running those applications in just one computer. It's definitely going to crash. The database is going to crash. It's going to run out of space and cause problem for you. People will not be able to log in because why? There won't be any extra place for login to be done, authentication to be done, and all of those things. So those will cause problem. If you're running an application like Dynamics 365 for your enterprise resource, those applications is either you already know the amount of people you're going to be serving and then provision that amount of server, but if you don't know and your customer base keep growing, it's advisable that you move over to the cloud. Okay, so another use case for VM is actually development and testing. In fact, this is one of the most important part of using VM. So what does it mean? What do I mean by development and testing? Now, development and testing can be in any perspective, depending on what we're looking at. If we're looking at developing applications, right, you don't move straight to production. So you need a server called your development server where you develop your code and then test the code. Once you develop those code and everything seems fine, your QA sees that everything is fine, then you can move to production. Production is live. This is the application that your customer interacts with. You cannot use the application that your customer interacts with to be doing testing, right? So larger organization, they have hundreds of development servers, right? They spin up hundreds of development servers. One developer can have up to 10 development servers, right? Imagine if one developer has 10 physical development servers. That is waste of money because at the end of the testing, they might not even need that those server for a very long time until they create another application. Maybe they do refactoring. So you're spending a lot of money for development servers. Instead of that, log into Azure, spin up your development server, do your testing. When you're done, delete it. Anytime you want something else, continue spin up a development server, and do your testing, delete, save money, and all of those things, right? So with big data processing and analytics, one of the things that actually led me into cloud computing is this big data. I remember the time where I was writing some machine learning algorithm, and I was using my system. I was processing it, but I think I was processing up to like 8 million data points. I was using my local system to do that using Notebook. And for the first time in my life, I saw my system actually hung, like it was screaming. Like I heard it was screaming, and the thing restarted. I was scared. The reason why that happened was the fact that my system was not sophisticated enough to carry out that processing. So because I was bent on solving that problem and I cannot go buy a new system, I started researching for how to solve the problem, and I came across Google Colab. Google Colab, I tried to process the data on Google Colab, and before I could open my eye, it processed it, and I was like, "Oh my God, how did this thing happen?" So I started researching, and I found out what they call distributed servers. Distributed servers is nothing but virtual machines hosted in the cloud, right? So it divides your workload into different parts and does the processing and combines everything and deliver the results. So that's how big data processing works. It has a lot of different computers that comes together in the cloud. Immediately you process something, it looks at the workload and then spin up all the servers and process your data and gives you the results, your analytics, and all those beautiful stuff that you see people run on Power BI on the cloud. It leverages VMs and cloud technology as well. So another part again is high performance computing workloads.